Absolutely. Today's Bard Day. We got three bards for you that we've talked about, but we're going to go back over them as we were saying before. And as we do, we will be keeping in mind, Jeremy, just for a moment, would you mind flashing the rubric?
Yeah, we got to do our Fantasy Labs rubric here. Here we go. Oh,
Jeremy made it look nicer than it was before, so thank you for that, Jeremy. It looks very pleasant.
Well, you know how I am, Pete.
I do.
I am asinine about this shit.
They call him Jeremy formatting. They call him formatting Jeremy.
I'm neurotic, guys.
And just to quickly touch back over, you get a point for beating passing in a category, and your goal is to try and get a 5 out of 5 points for the 5 categories. And those categories are space, which is to say, does it fill a mechanical niche that the system lacks, or that couldn't be accomplished by reflavoring something else? Is it balanced? Is self-explanatory? Is it playable? Would it disrupt the flow of play, not because of necessarily being imbalanced, but because there's just some stuff that could be frustrating for players or DMs? Is the design elegant, the design category, and just the flavor? Is it exciting? Does it make you want to play it?
Yes.
And so that's just these are the things that we're going to be keeping in mind and talking about as we're going through these. We're not going to go probably through the point system as rigorously maybe as we did the first time on some of these. Or I guess we didn't even do that originally on the color bard, which we probably should have in retrospect. But
I think what our goal is for this, Pete, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think our plan for content that we bring back to Fantasy Labs, right, that we've already talked about once, whether it be on Lich's Lair, like mine or Crowley's bards, or just to show off like we did with the color bard. When we come back to it, what we're really going to look at are the potential problem areas, the places that we have identified previously in our previous show as potential issues, and what we've done to resolve those issues in the new versions. So I guess is that about it, Pete?
Yeah, well spoken. Yeah, so let me pull up the College of Color here, or Jeremy, if you don't mind pulling up a screen, I'm pulling it up on my screen. It's
already up.
Pulling it up on my screen. Great. Let's talk a little bit about the College of Color. We did this last time, and I mean, I was pretty happy with it, but I got some really great feedback on some of the clarity, and I think this is to talk about one of my own homebrewing pitfalls, and this is something that I'm sure a lot of people struggle with as well. I know I've seen it in others as well. Sometimes things that make sense to you don't necessarily make sense to everyone reading them, and there was definitely a couple of those issues in here where there were clarity issues with some of my things. So that was a major facet of some of my changes. And another thing that you guys were talking about originally were some balance issues, but we'll get into that in a moment. First, let me just summarize what the College of Color, the Bardic College, was. And the Bardic College of Color is essentially, you're a bard that's a painter, and you do your bard magic through painting and through creating more visual wonderments than musical. And there was a couple of features here, but I think there were 2 features that Jeremy, you and Crowley both I think we were all kind of in agreement on, worked pretty well. So if you watched last week, if you walked before, you probably already know. So we're just going to summarize these pretty briefly, which is there were 3 third-level features. One was color magic, which lets you use painter supplies as a spellcasting focus.
Pete, you've hardly even described what is the color bard in general, right?
Oh, I was saying before, it's a...
I mean, it's very loosely, but...
Yeah, do you want to do the whole read?
I mean, no, I guess you said enough. I guess it's a bard that uses painting to do their magic.
Yeah, it's a magic painting bard. Cold Spark asks, bards don't get ritual casting naturally, do that? I believe they actually...
No.
Really?
Nope. I believe it's just clerics and druids, and even and wizards. And clerics and druids don't even get good ritual casting. Warlocks only do if they take Pact of the Tome, I think.
Am I crazy?
I might be wrong. All right, maybe I'm totally wrong, but Dude Man says they do.
Yeah,
Cold Spark says they don't. All right, guys, I'm terrible. Sorry, go on.
Anyway, bards do get ritual casting. So they're bards, they paint. The first feature you get is color magic, which lets you use painter supplies as a spellcasting focus. That's more of just a flavor thing. It doesn't actually really offer any mechanical benefits. It's just painters as supplies instead of an instrument. So not all that significant. The next feature is 1,000 words, another relatively small feature, but kind of a cute one. And what it did was...
Pretty good.
you think it like good mechanically?
Oh yeah, I like this a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I'm saying like not super powerful though necessarily.
Oh, I don't know. I think it's pretty good powerfully too.
All right. Well, then we'll talk about that a bit as well.
But yeah, it's fine.
1,000 words basically what it does is it lets you create a small token that you can give to someone as their bardic inspiration. So essentially, it takes longer to make one, but it's a bardic inspiration that lasts a longer time. Dude Man asks, I think it'd be awesome if they automatically add color spray to their spells known. I agree with you. They should be able to cast color spray. That's a great point. But I was also kind of looking at some of like the variant bard stuff, which includes color spray. So my thinking was just like, if someone's going to play the College of Color, they might just be using that anyway. So they're
is that one of the variant options for the bard?
Yeah, that was one of the on the variant class features from the Unearthed Arcana. The extended spell list for bards included color spray and a lot of things that were related like this. So maybe wizards had plans for a color bard as well, or some kind of painter bard.
Well, so 1,000 words is great. I mean, it's just a cool feature where your bardic inspiration die lasts, until your short rest rather than 10 minutes. But let's talk about this next big boy, because this is the one you really changed, right? Impressionism?
Yeah, I changed 2 features here, which originally at 3rd level, and so this is, I don't want to ask you guys just reviewing UA. No, this is homebrew right here. That I actually personally made the College of Color here, and we're reviewing some other ones that Jeremy and Crowley made.
Indeed.
Yes.
So yes, Impressionism. Impressionism is the big change here. Originally, this was the 6th level feature, and to summarize what it did originally, it allowed you to basically paint your spells like kind of magical traps or magical health packs, you might say, on the ground. And then when someone walked over them, you could pick them up. According to Critique and Jeremy and Crowley, maybe it's putting it lightly, but to say it wasn't clear exactly how that worked.
Yeah, I think the biggest issues were that it wasn't clear about how it worked.
Well, this is a...
Right, Crowley? Sounds about right to you?
Yeah.
It sounds like either you don't remember or there's something else that you were saying that's kind of a big potential issue.
I definitely remember that was the issue.
Oh, excellent. We're on the same page then.
Okay. You're throwing me off. But let me read you now the version of Impressionism I have for you here. Also, this is another point, actually, before I get in. One thing you guys also both commented on Impressionism was that it seemed kind of weak as a feature. Like, it gave you a tool, but it didn't really give you any power. Is that fair to say?
I think... Sorry, I was trying to respond to Ivalon in the chat, who was asking, how do you submit ideas for us to look at? In the workshop, you can send them, and we'll just look at them and talk about them briefly. But if you want us to take a real critical review, you can maybe polish them up nice and submit it to us for the Lich's Lair. You do that by messaging Pete directly in the Discord. There are instructions on our workshop area. But yeah, no, I think the biggest issues were that, you're right, it was unclear about how mechanically it necessarily worked, but also... my big qualm was how often you could use it. And that it could be a trap because you could use your spell slots, putting them on the ground, and then you wouldn't be able to, you'd be burning all your spell slots on nothing.
Okay. Oh, and then them like disappearing because you use it again. So you're just siphoning. I get what you're saying. Okay, interesting. Crowley, did you have any other thoughts on Impressionism as it was before we go into this new version?
Yeah, definitely the amount you could use it, I think, should have been higher. I agree with that statement.
And did you agree with the amount that you could use it in the same way that Jeremy said it, or did you just think you shouldn't have been able to use it so much? Like, just because...
Oh, no, I think you should be able to.
Okay. So you're agreeing with Jeremy, basically?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'll read you now the feature as I've changed it now. Beginning at 3rd level, you can paint wondrous murals. As an action, you can instantly paint a mural on a surface adjacent to you that is as large as a 5-foot square. When you do so, you infuse the painting with a bard spell that you know, expending a spell slot of the chosen spell's level as a part of this action. The chosen spell must have a casting time of 1 action and must target either an area or a single creature. If the spell would require you to make a choice as a part of the casting, you must make that choice at the time that the mural is painted. Additionally, the chosen spell cannot have a range of self. The mural emits dim light in a 5-foot radius, but has no other immediate effect. So, to begin with, this I think was one of the areas of lack of clarity originally. So it's changed now to it's just a mural that you paint.
The word mural is so clarifying to me as to what it is. Because one of the things I think that Crowley and I were confused about before is I was like, well, what are you painting? Is it like a 3D thing that's just floating there? Is it like a picture that represents the spell? And I wasn't sure.
Yeah, and also
I
putting
never
on a
had that
surface.
Oh,
okay.
well, I guess I was just confused, guys.
I just assumed you could paint whatever you want, and didn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, the painting was always kind of an abstract way of doing it, but this makes it a little bit more obvious, like exactly what that is. So let me finish reading the thing, but it's all clear so far. I think. When a creature comes into contact with the mural, the infused spell activates. If the spell targets a creature, it targets the activating creature. If the spell targets an area, the area is centered on that creature. If the spell requires concentration, you must begin concentrating on the spell at the time it is activated, or the spell fails to cast and the magic of the mural fades. Once the infused spell has been activated, the mural ceases shedding dim light and becomes a non-magical painting. So that was another thing to like give it more physicality in the space. I wanted it clear that like the magic goes away and then there's just a painting on the ground that was kind of like, and in some senses, the memory of the time that you put that spell there. And last but not least, if unactivated, the mural remains magical for 1 hour. The magic ends early if the surface it is painted on is altered, damaged, or moved. Additionally, the magic ends early if you use this feature again, or you use an action to deactivate the mural. If you choose to deactivate the mural in this way, you regain a spell slot of the same level spent to create it. So, this is now Impressionism. And I've also moved it to 3rd level from what was originally a 6th level feature. I know it's now a very long feature, and I think there's definitely places where it's going to need to be condensed down a little bit, but I wanted to like start from a place of no ambiguities. But as it is now, tell me what you guys think.
I like it. I still think it's got that core problem for me, which is that you can't use it a lot, right? Like, I mean, if I were going to do this, I'd want to be painting stuff all over the place. That would be like the class fantasy I would want, and it still has that. But from a clarity perspective, I mean, I think it makes a lot more sense now. I understand it completely what you were going for, and I think it's pretty clear.
Okay, cool.
Obviously, there's some wordsmithing that could be done, but
agreed.
That last paragraph. Additionally, the magic ends early if you use this feature again, or you use an action to deactivate the mural if you choose to deactivate the mural. In this way, you regain a spell slot of the same level spent to create it. Is that for both using it again and deactivating the mural that you gain the spell slot back?
No, I meant that to be only if you're choosing to
deactivate.
Yeah, if you're going over to it and being like, I want to get my spell slot back, you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little. I don't know. That's the only qualm I have potentially is just like still the spell slot burnout.
Okay. This fixes that to some extent. Though.
Oh, to a degree, it gives you the option to reclaim it.
Actually, let me tell you that this is a thing that I was considering. Would you feel better about it if it was
a bonus action?
This, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we got to add the range and like at what range you can reclaim it. But I guess you know, if you say you could touch the mural and whatever, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of complicated things on it, so it just becomes very long. Which I would like it if it was a brisker feature, and some of that's going to get tuned down in wordsmithing, but I think it needs like most of this wording on it.
Yeah, I think actually a really awesome point mentioned by Dude Man. So is it a way to save a spell slot for later, or is it something else? Huh. That's very interesting. Because the magic lasts for an hour. I think rather than for an hour, it needs to be tied into your short rest somehow. Because Dudeman's got a good point. What if you're like, all right, I'm gonna cast a bunch. Actually, I guess you can only cast one of these.
Yeah, this is the that 1 hour time limit was the exact reason why.
Well, Catnap was a spell you could use to get a 10-minute short rest beat.
Yeah, but you don't regain spells on a short rest.
Oh yeah.
So that was the exact reason for the time limit, because I wanted to give people the option to do spells back, because originally there was no time. You could just paint it; it would be there forever. But if you're gonna have it be able to come back, then you could, paint a spell, paint your 9th level spell, take a rest, and then just get an extra 9th level spell slot, which would be busted at high levels, or really at any level. Getting an extra of your best spell slot would be really good.
I see Ivalon's got an interesting point. Is deactivating a spell is usually a bonus action in 5e that can do it at will. You're right, Ivalon. For breaking concentrations, it usually is. But this isn't necessarily a concentration.
In fact, it's concentrating.
I also noticed, Pete, up here, you mentioned specifically that you can only do this with bard spells, so it doesn't interact with multi-classing. Is that an intention that you wanted? It's just immediately addressing Blood's comment about the bard warlock catnap options.
Yeah, I actually
was it like that intentional move, or was that just that's convenient?
I actually didn't. It wasn't. It was a half. I'll say it's a half intentional move, Jeremy. I didn't know what things that you could do by kind of cheating in that particular manner. So I wanted to make it just interacting only with the things that you're going to get. So that's the logic behind it.
Yeah, I dig it. I think they're definitely, it's very good at this point. There were some questions I know Michigas was asking about, or actually Coltbark was asking about, right? So for a cone, is the triggering creature in the cone? Yeah, I think needs to be, because it says if it's an area, right, it's centered on the location.
Indeed.
So by that phrasing, a cone would be centered on the location, which is just a little weird.
I didn't think about specifically cones in imagining how this would work.
Yeah, I think there needs to be, or Thunderwave as well, right? Does it start in the middle, or does it come out from the mural?
I imagine that is starting in the middle. Since Thunderwave is a cube, I pictured it just being like, poof, the Thunderwave explodes where the person is.
Yeah, no, but like out 15 feet from the mural. Right. It's just a little wordsmith in there.
Yeah. Maybe there's
for
some
a radius. If it's a radius spell, the radius is centered on the area, and on the mural. If it's a blast, it's out from the mural. It's
kind of, some of that almost seems like it's, I don't know. Like, what's your opinion on that? Because it almost seems better to me to have some of that be like, you're gonna have to kind of figure it out, frankly, because there's so many like small caveats on individual spells. Like a lot of this text is actually borrowed directly from the way they do it in Glyph of Warding, and they also don't specify those caveats on that.
Do they really not?
Yeah.
Wow.
I took the thing, if the spell targets an area, the area is centered on that creature, and if it targets a creature, it targets the creature. I took it exactly from Glyph of Warding, and that was the only.
Really?
Yeah.
That's whack. Thank you, Diadems, for the 100 bits. I appreciate it. Very much appreciate it. Yeah, wow, that's really weird that's how that works.
Yeah.
Man, that's bad. They screwed it up. They should have been, I think, more clear about that. I personally am on the train of it should be as clear as we can have it.
You'd rather have it be like, because you'd rather have it be just massive and cover everything than maybe a little bit vaguer, but like a cleaner overall design. Like
I think that you can write it more concisely, and that doing that would be the biggest pain in the ass, but you could do it.
All right, I think this interesting. That's one to consider.
Mechanically, it's sound right now, right? And with that extra addition, it's just finding a way to trim that down word-wise, but still retain the same fidelity of how it works.
Yeah.
Ugh. That's the not as fun part of finalizing good homebrew. But anyway, overall,
it's interesting.
I think
I'm with you.
This is a pretty cool feature. I really like that you moved it to level 3. I think doing this is kind of the core concept, right, of what makes a painter bard. You go around and you paint shit, right?
Yeah.
That is what you're doing. I think that's a really cool mechanic, and I think that's a really important thing that you got that at the lower levels here.
Yeah, I thought that the core thing was going to be creating objects, but when I thought about it,
I'm sorry, dude, man, paints meteor score in the town square. I agree. Dude, man is in fact a genius.
You can do this with this feature, and if anyone plays it and gets to Meteor Swarm, I bet you they will.
Hey, Pete, I got a question. Can you paint this on a surface that is mobile?
You cannot, as it is worded here. Wait, yeah.
You can't, if the surface is alter, damage removed. Oh, good thinking.
Yeah, that was what I was, that was another thing I was afraid of, because I was picturing like, oh, the Painter Bard Paladin combo, who before every fight, the Painter Bard just throws a quick shatter on the Paladin's shield for them to like punch people with, or like,
that's sick though. I love that.
Well, that's righteous, but also I think it gets pretty abusive pretty quick.
Rip D&D painting a train heist. I don't know. I would really like to think about that a little more, because that's where all the power at 3rd level is coming from for this, really, is this painting feature.
That's true. I mean, it also has, but it gets another thing at level 3 and the kind of the cool option for the bard. And like, there's so much you can do. By the way, Jeremy, and Crowley, were you of the same opinion here that you wanted to have multiple at the same time?
Yes.
I very much would like to. Maybe that could be like a higher level thing, right? As you gain levels in this class, you can do more.
I was considering for a while, and I want to walk you through this. I thought about that a lot after you guys both mentioned that desire. And I had in my brain a progression of, you get one more at 6 and 14. So ultimately you could have 3 at the same time, go 2 and then 3.
I like that.
Yeah,
I thought you guys would like that, but here's why I think that is completely broken. Because you're going to get additional magical secrets. I think the bard spells aren't that bad, but like, there are so many spells that are going
to... just who knows, right?
Yeah, that are going to destroy that. Well, here's like, I just took 5 minutes and started thinking about some of the things that you could do. A 2-spell combo that I was a fan of that I came up with was Fireball and Vestiture of Flame as 2 of your additional magical secrets, where you paint 3 fireballs around yourself and get yourself an Investiture of Flame, so you're immune to fire, and then when an enemy comes up, you simulcast 3 fireballs that are pre-painted, and then cast another spell in the same round.
Well, you don't have to worry, because Investiture of Flame is self.
I'm just saying, you just have Investiture of Flame, so you're immune to fire, so that when you activate it, it destroys the world. This is a quick thing that I think is a little bit degenerate, that I came up with minimal effort. Tell me how you feel about this. It's action economy. It's action economy. You're getting to.
I was thinking, like, what if it were only spells with a range of touch? But then that gets boring. You want to make fireball traps.
Yeah, you definitely want to make fireball traps.
It's tough. It's a tough one. I think, here's my personal thought on it. The ability to personally, rather than it ends early if you cast this feature again.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you cast this feature again, it ends early and you regain the spell slot, would be the optimal solution for me. That way I can keep throwing it down. I don't have to worry about, am I close enough to use my bonus action to reclaim the magic? Right. It's just like, I can just, if I want to plop something else down, I can just do it, Because the Bard, they've got Healing Word, they've got Bardic Inspiration, they've got so much bonus action economy.
What if there was no range on the bonus action? It was you just do it.
I don't know.
I think I'm with Jeremy.
Yeah, all right. I'm interested in that. I think that could work better.
This is nitpicking at this point because I think it's very functional right now.
I like needlewag. It's all right. We're all
I
degenerates
think
here.
it still needs.
I am too. I'd be trying to pull out the most outrageous bullshit if I
Hey,
could.
Jericho! How's it
If I could
going?
set stuff up like this, I'm with you.
You filthy degenerates. But Pete, we spent a lot of time talking about this ability.
Yeah, this was
Well,
this was also the most kind of contentious thing here, I think.
Right. I will say if you decide to do it again and you instantly regain the spell slot, if it was that, I think I'd be satisfied with it. As it stands, I'm not. You said it worked well. I think it's okay.
It's functional right now, I think. It's just a matter of how good you want to make it.
Yeah.
Whether it takes your bonus action to regain the slot or if it's free.
I still think you guys are underestimating the power of just additional pre-planned action economy. Just delayed fire blast is a 7th level spell, and it's just 2d6 more fireball, which is a 3rd level spell. Like,
yeah,
this is just you can make any one of your spells that.
Yeah, like, I don't think that's that big of an issue.
I'm just saying, I think you're underestimating the power level of this still, which I stand firm on that statement, but I think that getting the spell slot back all the time is a good idea as well, and I would probably change that.
Yeah.
Also, I just wanted to quickly, because we said this in the chat while we were waiting on, I want to give a quick shout out to VBunny23 subscribing at tier 3 for 16 months. Keep up the good work, guys. Thank you, VBunny. I hope that you enjoy your Lich Slayer later this evening. I'm very excited for it. I just wanted to give that quick shout out because we didn't actually do that on the actual stream.
Thank you.
And that's a lot of months.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
Now, Pete, we had another feature here, right?
Yep. So the feature that was at 3rd level was a feature called Painted Supplies. I have a potential new name for it here that I threw out called Mind to Matter, which is a cooler name, but it doesn't necessarily evoke painting to me, so I wasn't sold on it, but it sounds cooler. It sounds more like a feature than Painted Supplies did.
I don't know.
I'm interested in your thoughts on that, but let me give you a quick read through on what the feature does. Before it let you just conjure objects, it still does that. At 6th level, you gain the ability to give a semblance of reality to your artwork. You may channel your bardic magic into your paintbrush to create a simple, inanimate, 3-dimensional object by painting it in 2 dimensions. So the language there is the same. As an action, you can cause paint to flow from your painter supplies to form the desired object as you concentrate on its image. Created object must be non-magical, be able to fit within a 5-foot cube, weigh less than 50 pounds, and have a value of 5 or less gold pieces. I'm not sure what the exact phrasing I'm supposed to use for value.
Whatever. It works.
Additionally, any object painted in this way may only have the properties of one of the following materials. The properties of the following materials: paper, cloth, wood, stone, leather, or a non-precious metal. And I should make clear that also a non-precious stone, because I guess gems could be interpreted in that way.
Okay.
You may use this, and then here I have 2 options for how it's used. So a critique that you guys gave me on Painted Supplies was similarity to the Conjuration Wizard. And by putting it to 6th level, I thought I had a little bit more liberty to give it a bit more power. And I thought of 2 ways that I would be interested in doing that, and making it kind of come into its own to a certain extent. And that is that when you make something, you just make it. It just exists now. And that is reflected with, you may use this feature a number of times equal to your charisma modifier and regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Which is, I don't think, some of my opinions on this feature are being skewed by recently reading the Creation Bard that was made from Wizards Unearthed Arcana, where they valued creating a single object and taking 10 minutes to do it at a full 14th level feature. But I think making simple objects like that and just getting 5 things a day is fine. Alternatively, I have this option. You may have a number of conjured objects at one time equal to your charisma modifier. If you exceed this number of painted objects, you must choose one existing object that has been conjured in this way. That object melts back into paint. So you just have a floating pool of 5 things that are around all the time, if you have a maximum charisma.
Interesting. That last one reminds me a lot of the Artificer. Yeah.
I prefer the first one.
I do as well.
I agree. As cool as the idea, right, of it melting into paint, I really actually dislike that accounting style of gameplay. Of having to remember, like, it's kind of like there are some magic items like figurines of wondrous power that can only be used once every X days. And in my experience running with them as a dungeon master, I hate that level of accounting. And I'm not sure I like this level of accounting either.
I agree. The first feature was one that was the one that I was leaning towards as well. But I wanted to put that in there in case you guys think that this. Now, are you in agreement with me that this isn't overpowered?
Oh, I don't think it's overpowered, personally. I mean, I think there are some settings where you could argue that, like, it's funny because you look at it, what's value of 5 or less gold mean? That's a very objective or subjective kind of deal.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that have definitive gold values. So, like, I was imagining... the way that I intended that to mean, at least, was if you are creating something like a dagger, you can look at the equipment table being like, oh, well, that's worth a gold. Or if you're creating like a wooden block, that's it's fine.
Well, one of the things I would say is I thought a little bit about, or just in reading this right now, I immediately thought of, well, all right, what's the most bullshit thing you can do with this, right? All right. You got 5 of these, right? 5 of these per day.
Mm-hmm.
That's 25 gold per day. Is that a lot or is that a little? And it made me think toward the downtime activities, right? Like that they added in Volo's Guide to Monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking like, all right, what does honest work get you, right? It gets you a comfortable lifestyle for the week. Or if you roll well, right? If you roll decently. If you roll super well, it's comfortable lifestyle plus 25 gold. And what does a comfortable lifestyle cost? Like lifestyle expenses, comfortable is 2 gold per day. So like 15 gold value over a week. So really, that's pretty, well, this gives you what, 25 a day?
If you're making
doing
things
that,
to make 5 gold, it gets you 25 gold a day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which, you know, just something to kind of to think about.
Do you think that's problematic?
No, maybe. I think it can really depend on like the setting you're playing it in. Because right, you take the effort, right, to put in non-precious metal, non-precious stone, but then you put the gold value on it anyway.
Yeah.
Do you care if it's like 5 gold worth of silver dust?
The part of the reason that I did this is because I thought that without that on it, a thing that I was imagining players using this feature to do was literally just make things and be like, look at this perfect craft I made instantly. It's worth more than that. And so I put that kind of thing on it so a GM would have a thing to look at, like, well, the thing that you made can't be worth more than 5 gold.
Gotcha.
So
yeah,
just,
I mean,
just to put
I'm not saying it's busted. I'm just interesting ways saying it's something to think about. And at 6th level, I'm not sure that's a big deal at all. 25 gold per day is not.
This is also my thinking.
Yeah, I'm looking at like a lot of the 5 gold, because you'd have to make something worth 5 gold with each charge.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you'd oversaturate an area before you could like effectively make that kind of money on it.
Which that's a great story. If
paper,
that's
cloth, wood, leather, and non-precious materials.
Well, you can do
iron. Is iron a trade good? What are the trade goods?
Just a big block of iron.
I wasn't thinking a big block of iron. I guess you.
Yeah, a pound of iron only costs a silver, so you could just make 50 pounds of.
50 pounds of iron.
That's exactly worth 5 gold.
That's really funny.
I know that's what you were thinking, Pete, when you designed it. No,
that was intended design.
I don't think that is a problem at all. I actually really like specifically that and how this could interact with the fabricate spell. I think that could be very neat.
That could be interesting for sure. Especially if you as a bard would want to, like, you could magical secrets fabricate and play around with that.
I mean, you could just go boom, 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 do all 5 of your charges, so you've got a 20 charisma, right? And be like, all right, I got 250 pounds of iron. Let's fabricate some cool shit, guys.
And
that just sounds fun to me rather than bad, right? Rather than a problem.
I think so as well. Do you think that by just making stuff and having it, and you're just going around painting shit, does that make you feel better about this feature as diversifying itself from the Conjuration Wizard?
Oh, absolutely. Great. I think. Do you agree, Pete? I mean, Crowley?
Yeah.
One of the things I would like to see in this, I'm not sure, it might be getting too complicated. I'd love the ability to do something like paint a piano or whatever.
And like play a piano. Well, you could maybe not a piano, but you could just throw together a quick xylophone.
Is it worth less than 5 gold?
Well, that's what I'm saying. The 5 gold thing to me was more of that's what the thing that you make is worth at cap. But if a player to me came and wanted to just do I just make a xylophone using dumb wood blocks in it just to make a quick sound, that's a thing that I would think you'd be able to do with this.
In that case, you need to change it because that's not what it does. It needs to be adjusted a little bit.
Because value is, value is subjective though.
Yeah, but you envision, right, the bard being able to do something, but if you interpret this strictly as written, you can't. And that's where the problem comes in. I think there is a text for this in the Nolzur's Marvelous Pigments.
You
could use. The thing becomes, what is it? The pigments.
I used text from Nolzur's Marvelous Pigments actually in this.
Gotcha.
Because that's the
if you paint an object of greater value, it looks authentic, but is made of bone, paste, bone, or other worthless material. I think that's how you can put something like that in there, right? If you would paint an object of greater value than 5 gold, its quality is such that its value is 5 gold or less.
Maybe that's a way to do it.
Because I agree. That's what you want to do. That's the fantasy with it. Part of it's just being able to just make whatever the hell you want. Yeah,
just wacky shit. Things that I thought, when I was thinking about what I want to do, I want to just...
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pete. I was reading Max's comment in chat. Can I paint a baby goat and bring it to life? Is that bad? I love this.
Later on you can.
But you could paint a stuffed goat.
You could paint
it's made of cloth and wool.
Yeah, and that was the idea. Is I was just wanted to hedge out diamonds and gold as things that you could paint with. But anyway, that's roughly it.
You paint animation is the same as before.
Animation is unchanged. And also, originally there was feedback I got on animation 2, which was that you just wanted animation to do more things and to give you more options of what you could turn into.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was playing around with an idea for a little bit, and that was you can turn into any creature you've seen, but you don't gain any of the benefits. That creature doesn't gain any of the benefits of its special features.
Oh, you can make any creature.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I said turn into. Incorrect. You shapeshift into a Zorn.
You could paint 5 gold coins. It's worth exactly 5 gold.
Oh shit.
Except they can't do precious metal.
You'd have to paint, but then you'd be using all of your slots, so they're only getting 1 gold.
Counterfeit gold coins.
You'd have to be pointing 5.
Wouldn't be gold.
You have to be painting 5 gold.
They'd be obviously painted gold.
One of the things characters in one of my campaigns they have 5 coins made of wood with the word gold etched into them. They love those.
So you could do this. But anyway, animation, I unchanged, and I know both of you guys were saying you wanted to make monsters and stuff, and I was like, how do I do that? And the idea I had was you get the stat block but don't gain the benefits of special features and can only use basic simple attacks. But I thought that was way too complicated and a pain in the ass to do if you actually executed it. So I think it's better off just being beasts. I mean, I know it's like
or Fae?
Fae, dude. Pixies?
You get 1.
Yeah, but like that.
Oh
one...
wait, is there a limit to this? Oh no, but you gotta concentrate on it like a spell. I mean, Conjure Fey already exists. This is your 14th level capstone. I think there's room. Albeit Conjure Fey is always weird because I don't like the idea of like I summon a hag and it's like, all right, this is now weird. This is a character that has a lot of baggage to it.
I mean, are there any 5th level or 5 CR or lower monstrosities that could break this?
Yeah, the Gorgon, I think. I'm sorry, the Medusa destroys it, I think.
6?
The Medusa would be whack.
I believe the Basilisk is the same.
The Medusa is 6th, the Gorgon is 5th.
Basilisk is the same deal too, petrification, and like playing in that space I think is dangerous. I mean, it's a low DC for like the kind of stuff you're fighting at that level, but I just think it's too.
I don't know.
There's too many issues.
I think if you want to go in the route of like painting things to come alive, I think you need to do something else. I don't think this works.
Works?
Like or like it
well,
works.
no, I think that's what you mean. I think it means exactly what he said, right? You feel like this doesn't fulfill that fantasy.
No, I wouldn't.
I could go either way.
This is the feature that I would be like, well, I don't want to play this to 14th level because because I can already do this kind of stuff with druids. I can already do this kind of stuff with a conjuration wizard, specifically summoning something, not a beast. I can also kind of already do it as a bard because you can get awaken and then you just have a smart beast.
I mean, that one's a little bit.
Conjure Elemental is kind of the closer one, I think.
I get.
And the elementals are better than beasts.
Oh, maybe Elementals would actually be a good
maybe
one.
Elementals is one to toss in. That's one that I hadn't considered. But maybe Elementals is the way to go.
What about oozes? Can we add oozes to the list? Elementals or oozes? I like this. We're going in a good direction.
Oozes, Jesus Christ. Oozes are probably problematic. I don't know why. But like then also it's like, what are we even? I feel like oozes is like, what are we even doing at that point?
Yeah,
like,
I know. I was kidding.
Okay.
I was joking about the oozes. I mean, like paint. What is paint but colorful ooze?
So yeah, all of the base elementals I don't think would be problematic. Would elementals get you there at all, Crowley?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I didn't think so either.
It would definitely help me. That would get me there.
I think you would. I think it's still too narrow for like what this is trying to accomplish.
Well,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, here's a better question. Is this too narrow for what it's trying to accomplish, or do you think that this concept of summoning a creature isn't the right one for this subclass? Like, do you think that this really isn't the appropriate capstone for what you envision as a Bard of the College of Color? Or do you think it's just too narrow of that vision? Because I think those are two really important questions.
Right.
There's no change, no amount of change or like widening the horizon is going to fix it if you don't agree that the concept of painting a creature into existence is what you would want. It sounded like you didn't like the concept because you could get it through it and other stuff.
I might not like if it was literally any type of creature, I might be on board.
Yeah, that's probably not feasible,
but that's too broad in this situation. That's not feasible. So I think ultimately, I just don't see this as the capstone that I would go for.
To me, this is the thing that makes that a painter bard is always building towards. It's making your doodle bob and making your like.
Oh no! I think 100% making things like animated things. I just don't know if I would constrict creatures.
I'm interested how if maybe there's something we could pull out of the Simulacrum spell, which could be really interesting for this, because Simulacrum can very much be like a doodle bob kind of deal.
Well, I was actually
just as a thought.
Simulacrum was one that I was interested in for this, Jeremy. Since while we're on that subject, and I was thinking about making like, oh well, you can just paint a magical friend that goes around and does stuff, but it wasn't quite. For one thing, it could be just the Simulacrum spell and you're just making a copy of yourself, which, just get the Simulacrum spell. And then also like I was considering, well, no, you can just paint exactly the person that you want and create a new person, but then
Oh God, welcome to hell.
and then choose like, but then I didn't know how to. You'd have to make a stat block for the thing that you create, which
Well, there are some stat blocks in the back of Volo's guide for humanoid NPCs.
I'm aware of those.
Maybe we could do something like that.
I now, like, just thinking about it more, I think beasts could work if you like were able to add something to them.
Yeah, I think it's just too vanilla otherwise.
Yeah, like if you could say yes, this, or like you use the bear stat block, but it also has tentacles or something like that. Like in my mind, for what this is, like impressionism, and I think so Blooddy's kind of hit it on the head where he says beast is unfitting, it should be elementals and monstrosities and such. Like lifelike perfect recreations of real things makes little sense for an impressionist abstract artist. I feel like a bard, who they tend to be showy, they tend to be the idea of a bard is that in my mind they tend to be a bit larger than life. I feel like something they paint would be very paint to life would be very much that.
I want to, before that goes too far, I want to address something that Blood Deuce is saying. The idea of an impressionist abstract artist. The College of Color is not meant to be abstract art by definition. It is meant to be art as a larger catch-all. Sure. Impressionism, I guess you can say, is abstract, and if you think, I would rather discuss like renaming Impressionism to something that works better than letting that feel like it defines the character, because I want a person to be able to take this art direction any way that they want. I think that's a good enough concept as it starts there.
You're right, but here's my problem. I got it again, by the way. I think that this feature along that same direction needs to be able to do both, because right now it can't. Right now this feature can only do like-to-life beasts, right?
It can do like-to-life beasts.
And that's it.
Mechanically.
It can't do crazy, wacky stuff.
But in my mind, and I think this is how I envisioned this playing out, anyone who uses this feature, and for one thing, has until 14th level to think about this feature, is going to be thinking exactly what the things that they paint are going to look like. A lot of examples, like you can paint yourself a bird, and you can say that that bird looks like whatever you want it to be. It can be like a brilliant blazing blue in all like manner of different colors, but it's going to use the stat block of a bird.
Maybe a sidebar would be a really helpful way to handle that. Or maybe a universal stat block. I know you said you didn't want to do that at first, but if you made a couple of specific universal stat blocks, maybe one that represented a creature with many different attacks or arms or something, right? One that represents a flying creature, maybe even if it's just 3 stat block options that could go with this, I think that might go a long way. Within a little sidebar, what is your animation, right? That could talk about.
I mean, even just saying it, like when I read, you can spend 1 minute and paint a large or smaller beast. I think, all right, this is the beast. It's not like this is a bear with tentacles in my mind. If I'm reading that, I would say
image. Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought. Sorry.
I'm thinking it would be the exact image. Is basically what I'm saying. Like reading the feature. If it was reworded, which maybe that's all this needs. To say it can be anything, but it's represented by a beast of 5th level or lower stat block, that also works.
Does that actually make you feel better about it? If it's just because that's the intention of the design.
Yes, that makes me yes, because I don't think that intent comes through in the description currently.
That's my own, I guess, experiences as a player.
Well, it's your idea of how you'd rule it as a DM, but it's not what it says. It's kind of like what we were talking about with the what was it? There was one we were talking about earlier. I forget.
For example, I'm someone who brought Fern to the table.
Right.
And so when I look at animation, I think I would do with animation what I used to do with that character, which is take beast stat blocks and make terrible, terrible monstrosities and wacky things out of them.
Sure.
So this is the intention of animation. So I think, a sidebar would work well for this.
Either a
And I
sidebar
think-
or just reword it in the thing itself to get that intent out.
Yeah, sure.
Well, unless you wanted to do, I mean, Blood Deuce has a really cool point there. Create a kind of semi-universal stat block and give it a couple of invocation-esque features you could toss on there. That
the
might
reason
be cool too.
that I didn't change animation to begin with is because I think currently animation is a really simple, boiled down feature that does something that I at least think is cool in terms of its functionality. And where there's so much complication in like impressionism and stuff, I didn't want this subclass to be a novel. And so I thought a more reasonable feature at the higher level made me feel a little better.
Yeah, but like a novel subclass is 26 pages and it's called the Mystic or class. You know,
That's a class.
this isn't too bad.
No, it's not crazy, but it's long. It's already long, especially for a 3-level subclass. It's pretty intricate.
Well, I could go either way. I think Blood's idea of going with the stat block and the evocation stuff, it's cool, but it might be a little too much. I think a sidebar and maybe some rephrasing of animation could really do a lot.
I think that might bring it to the
a
light of
swatch.
day.
Also, I would really like to add elemental to the list just because it takes a minute, like the Conjure Elemental spell, CR5 or lower, like the Conjure Elemental spell. The only difference is it doesn't attack you, but
it's your feature. Yeah, I don't know. That's why
I would like to add elemental because I think it's cool, but that's just me.
I would be potentially down. It's also artsy.
But overall, I like it. I like the direction this ended up.
Yeah, I like it too. I would want to play it personally.
Well, I mean, that's the hope.
Yeah, I mean, in particularly Impressionism as it stands, I know you guys want to see like just more power in it, but Impressionism as it stands sounds so fun to me. Making traps, but
should we be applying the rubric? Should we be breaking these down?
If you want.
I don't know.
We
we're going super hard on that right now. We spent a lot of time discussing this.
Yeah, so we actually went a lot longer than originally was intended.
I guess my question should have been: should we have been doing with the rubric?
No, I don't think we're going to do that on these since we already kind of went over them in pretty big detail originally as well.
Yeah, if you want to see, this one we didn't actually ever do it for, but if you want to see the next two Bard subclasses really taken to the grindstone and taken down a notch, you should check out our previous show. No, I say that jokingly, of course, but really, really critically reviewed and analyzed. Check out our previous episodes on YouTube and on Twitch. Look for the Bard colleges, the card college. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Pete, what's our next point tonight?
College of Guidance. Crowley, this was one that you put together, and I'm excited to see where she ended up.
Okay.
Where'd she end up?
So I'll just start with I just rewrote the flavor entirely.
Okay.
Just to simplify it.
Yes. We've moved to a College of Guidance.
Yes, it's called College of Guidance now, thanks to who the hell suggested that? Malar, maybe?
Chat, God bless you all.
Malkara, maybe?
Someone in chat. Maybe it was
Malkara.
Yeah,
I think it might have been.
Anyway, I'll bring us through the new flavor.
So, Bards of the College of Guidance study the psyche, learning what makes people tick. They use this knowledge to guide their companions to a happier, healthier, and more confident mental state, and to seize the insecurities of their foes and exploit their vulnerabilities. A sharp ear and sharp mind are key to their crafts, but they rely... that does say craft. I just misread it. Key to their craft, but they rely on their innate charisma to truly instill confidence in their companions. Simple, straight to the point. So guided meditation remained the same. That was the one where it was you play the Song of Rest, they can reduce their level of exhaustion by 1. I removed I don't even remember what I called it, but insight expertise. I think Pete made the point that you could just take that as a bard, and I thought, yep, that's correct. And I didn't want to really move. I liked the idea of guided meditation enough to just leave it, and I think it's pretty riveting for the most part. So, remediating inspiration has changed. Do you want me to read these out entirely, or just explain the changes? Or do both?
I would like you to explain to me where it was, and then
Yeah, how you address the concerns with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So last time, what it did. Well, I'll read it as it is now. So your bardic inspiration calms and soothes your allies. When you grant a creature your bardic inspiration die, the creature gains temporary hit points equal to half your bard level rounded down, plus your charisma modifier. Additionally, if the creature is under the charmed or frightened condition, it may immediately attempt to make a saving throw to end the condition. The creature may add this inspiration die to the roll, expending the inspiration. Before it was when you gave a creature your inspiration, they would either gain the temporary hit points or have the charmed and frightened condition ended on them. You guys felt that was a bit too strong. To just be able to just end the charmed or frightened.
Yeah,
So,
I know that was, I think, more a problem for me than Jeremy, but I thought that was a little.
But
much.
I took the
Oh, I was with
suggestion.
you.
Oh, okay.
I took the suggestion to make it so they get a roll against it. They can use this inspiration die if they so choose, but don't have to when they make that roll. And they just, as a baseline, get the temporary hit points for when they're not charmed or frightened.
Why would they not add the inspiration die?
If they wanted to
they
save it for someone
succeed.
else.
Yeah, if they wanted to save it for something else.
So you could re-roll the charm without expending the inspiration die?
Yes. They just basically get a free save.
So that happens when... I was just curious about the timing of it. So when you give them the inspiration, they get the chance.
Yes.
Okay, I
will say
understand that now.
there is an issue with this. It's a small one, and that is it needs to make a saving throw against the end of the condition. So, if the creature is under the charmed or frightened condition, it may immediately attempt to make a saving throw to end the condition. I think that needs to be if it's a condition that the save can end, right? Because some of them are until the end of your next turn, and so that doesn't make any sense in those regards. But that's just something to add in. I don't know how exactly it would be phrased.
I mean,
but
exactly how you phrased it, I think, is pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But otherwise, I think it's really nice. I like it. The extra hit points make it a kind of unique thing among bards, right? Because a lot of bardic inspiration is a lot of these level 3 features are like, well, what kind of versatility does your thing get? This is just more of a generally pretty good, and here are a few niche things where it's solid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt that fit in the idea of. So this is the College of Guidance, but we'll call it what it really is, which is the therapist bard.
Yeah.
For the purposes of discussing it.
Can I say something, Jeremy? College of Therapy still honestly works better for me than College of Guidance. That's
I think it's just too goofy. If you want to take it as like a very serious thing, I think it's going to be too goofy for a lot of people.
Maybe for some people, but I think
therapy's
therapy
no
is
joking matter.
I think therapy, what Crowley just said, is kind of a joke, but I agree with it.
I also kind of agree with it.
Because to me, also, guidance doesn't hit me in that
maybe the psyche then, right? Like, I think it didn't necessarily have to be guidance, didn't have to be therapy, but this is all about the psyche and mental manipulations. It's not about, but not in the same way that Shadows or Whispers is, which is like, ugh.
Well, so the problem with the psyche, and I thought about it, is there's two problems.
Brutal blood news in chat. Sorry, go ahead, Crowley.
Wow. Harsh on the bard.
The College of Psychology, honestly? Like,
I thought about that. That just seemed too much. Like, that seemed too on the nose, even for, College of Therapy. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought psyche, my worry with psyche was, number one, you have to put the psyche, and that breaks general.
Sure.
Whatever. My other worry is people would be like, the Scion Bard, because they're words that are close. I mean, I'm fine with College of Psychology. I'm fine with College of Therapy. The guidance has never quite done it for me, but it worked. So
Well,
maybe
this is
maybe we'll
a
find out.
kind of a nitpicky thing, I think, in the end. We know the concept we're looking for.
Yeah, just finding the
And
right
I think that was a very good fix, Crowley, by the way, for that option of how to adjust the balance problems that we had last time.
Yeah, I think so too.
One of my favorite pastimes is picking on bards, but this one type of bard I wouldn't pick on. Color bard is almost another.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Nice play. What'd you do next, Crowley, for one-on-one session? Anything change?
So one-on-one session, your concern was people wouldn't know how to derive the proficiency bonus
Yeah.
creatures. So I just made it more straightforward. The only thing I changed. So again, what this does is you listen to someone talk about their problems for a minute, like a therapist, and then you reassure them. And that reassurance comes in the form of a DC check. What it was before was the creature's DC or charisma plus their proficiency plus 8. Your concern was with NPCs, people wouldn't know how to derive the proficiency. So instead, I just made it 10 plus the DC equal to 10 plus the humanoid's bonus to charisma saving throws. That's the only change here. I mean, I might have changed wording.
It's an interesting mechanic. Setting the DC to their bonus to charisma saving throws. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Probably not. I don't think I have either. It's also kind of
And you're just making a generic charisma check.
Yes,
so at the absolute best, you're going to have a +7 to that.
Yeah, unless your charisma's over 20, but you don't account for that. So,
I like that. I think this is fine.
Yeah, I liked that feature as it was originally, save for that one thing, and I think this works. It's cool.
No, +8, not +7.
I really like that.
Oh yeah, you're right. Well, but for the most part, you're going to have like a +4, 5, or 6.
Yes.
Which I like this a lot. I think this is pretty reasonable.
So
I like the idea that you're good at making your uncharismatic fighter like, hey guy.
Well, that's also kind of the idea. I think in a lot of ways, charisma is sort of supposed to represent self-confidence in D&D. And the more self-confident someone is, the harder it is going to be to get them to boost them in it.
I think the mechanics do reflect that context.
So heightened insecurities. So it still does the vicious mockery additional damage. I changed. So before, what it did was you could use vicious mockery when you or up to your charisma modifier times a day when you damage something with vicious mockery. The creature would choose one of the creature's stats, and they would have disadvantage on all ability saving throws and ability checks for that stat. That was a bit much. So this is what it is now. When a creature fails their saving throw against your vicious mockery, you may further heighten their insecurities. Until the start of your next turn, the creature cannot gain advantage on saving throws. Additionally, you may choose one of the creature's stats. Any ability checks made using that stat are made at disadvantage. You may use this ability a number of times equal to your charisma modifier. You regain any expended uses when you finish a long rest. So I left the ability check portion more or less the same, and just made it so you can basically cancel out magic resistance with this or any other thing that might give someone advantage on their.
I really like that. I think that is a much more toned down version of the feature that still accomplishes the same deal. Or at least the same concept, right? Of making it harder for enemies to save against your effects.
Yeah. Now I do want a thought on this one. I have it as you regain it on a long rest. Do you think it should be a long rest or a short rest?
I think it should be a long rest.
I think a long rest. Definitely.
Okay. One
That's very cool.
issue I sort of have still is the ability checks is just still a little weird. I mean, I get it. I get why it's there. But, I mean, in context, where is that going to matter outside of, like, grappling?
Yeah, I was actually thinking the same thing.
Perception.
Exactly.
For, like, your rogue or whatever. I mean, it's mostly going to be
dragons
used for
with the legendary perceive check.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly going to be used for grappling, but I don't...
More monsters should get that legendary perceive check.
But they should.
Yes, probably. Here's the problem. If I remove that, I don't think just saying they don't get advantage on saving throws is enough.
It's already stronger. I mean, you already have a more damaging vicious mockery.
Yeah,
right?
well, okay, but I don't think that's good enough for it to be limited.
Oh, I still do. I still think it's very good.
Yeah, I know. It does seem a little weird to me that this does two things that feel like a touch different to me. Like it feels like it should just do one of these things. I might even feel better about it if like you choose one of those effects. But maybe that's too complicated.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's like a huge issue with the disadvantage. You solved what the core issue was, which was the balance of disadvantage and saving throws.
Yeah, that was a lot.
It's just a matter of whether like it really needs the ability checks because it's just a little weird. Like, is it going to be like, all right, well, my issue with this, right, is a newer player reading this, or even a more experienced player reading this who's played a lot, but maybe doesn't know a lot about the bard, right? So they played a lot of wizard. And they read this ability, or maybe they played a lot of fighter and they haven't even played a spellcaster before, right? I read this ability and they see can't gain advantage and they see disadvantage in the same thing, and they get confused about which one's which, and like, all right, which one applies to saving throws and which one applies to the ability checks, and what, and they might not even realize, like a lot of players, especially newer ones, you know, get confused between saving throws and ability checks. Like, what's the difference? But that's the only reason I would have for removing the ability checks part. It just is just a little clunky because it is two very different things.
Alternatively, you could just say can't gain advantage on saving throws or ability checks of this type that you pick. Would put it all into one thing that's pretty cohesive if you want to make both of them work together. Cuts back the power on the saving throws thing a little bit for your teammates, but usually you're going to pick something that's relevant for your shit anyway, because it's most fun to pick stuff that interacts with you. So
that actually, I think, would be a very neat way of putting them together. But yeah, it's up for, you know,
as it stands. I think it's fine. It's just a little.
So here's my problem. How often, outside of Magic Resist, how often is a creature going to have advantage on a saving throw? And how often is a creature going to have advantage on an ability check if you're not like a raging?
Oh, they're never going to have advantage on ability checks unless they're like trying to grapple a prone ally. Like,
right.
That would be.
I just, if I change this from what it is,
yeah,
its general use plummets.
I think most monsters don't use ability checks, like, ever.
I mean, a grapple. Yeah, sure. But
so that would be my thought process is that effect is incredibly niche, the ability check one.
Yeah.
But this is just
I mean, if you have someone in your party that grapples, you are forcing an ability check.
Yeah, well, it's just, it targets grappling and magic resistance, which are two things to hit with the same.
Well, I guess my point is, Crowley, you have a very fair point. I hate grappling in 5e, so you're never going to win me over with it, but it's a very fair point. You can reliably force strength or athletics or acrobatics ability checks.
Funny enough, for me, the thing that I don't like in 5e is the way stealth works. So the perception one is the one that I would be the most. It's already rough.
But, you know, at this point, it's just a matter of, well, does it need it? Does it not need it? You know, it's not a matter of balance anymore. As a very balanced ability as it is. Addressed our issue.
Indeed.
Okay. Group therapy, I think I only changed wording. I don't think I otherwise changed it. I actually.
And what does it do? Just a very loose overview. What does it do?
So I mean, it grants. Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, it grants a psychic resistance and advantage on saving throws to avoid being charmed or frightened to allied creatures within 30 feet of you. And additionally, you can use a bonus action to grant up to your charisma modifier number of creatures telepathy for 1 hour, and it's like a hive mind. Well, not a hive mind, but like you can all use it with each other. within 30 feet. Within the aura.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yep.
It's very neat.
It worked. Yeah, it worked for me before. I don't remember what the phrasing issues were, but this all seems pretty clear to me. So they must have
yeah, there was. I think I was the only one that noticed the phrasing issues.
Yeah. Well, we're not gonna nitpick you on the points that you brought up against your own thing that we didn't notice. So,
Dude, man, was saying, should a therapy bot automatically hit guidance and/or resistance? This thing's pretty well loaded as it stands, I would say, but if you are gonna go the guidance route and you really want to double down on guidance, I actually feel like heightened insecurities doesn't quite work with guidance.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem with calling it College of Guidance.
And having the guidance cantrip seems like a must-do somewhere in there if you are going College of Guidance. Yeah. But
here, we're changing it. We're changing it live.
We're changing it live. We're doing it live, folks.
We're doing it live.
Welcome to College of Psychology. Yeah. I am your professor. No, he's Professor Pete.
Oops.
Pete, teach us about psychology.
Yeah, teach us
the
about
mind
psychology.
is a complicated thing. And we're going to move next on to the last part.
Talk about complicated things. Welcome to Mystique, my boys. Hello, chat.
Has it become complicated? I didn't think it was. I guess there was
it's not.
The Bardic Inspiration was complicated, but.
So this is the College of Mystique. This is a pretty contentious class last week. Last week. The whole purpose of this subclass is a bard subclass that allows you to fulfill the class fantasy of the mystic fortune teller, right? The one who draws from the tarot decks that does all other manner of magical mystic arts. And there were a couple of points that needed to be changed. So Minor Arcanum, which is one of its core features, it gets to 3rd level. It doesn't change at all. Thaumaturgy cantrip. There was like some argument about the augury spell at will, but
I thought that was fine.
I think it's fine. Since augury has its own, what do we call it, built-in limiters. Instruments of Fate is the 3rd level feature, and that hasn't changed at all. You get to pick some non-magical stuff like a deck of cards, a crystal sphere, knuckle bones, or whatever, and they become your spellcasting focus. Nice, straightforward.
I feel like you should put in one caveat for that.
Sure.
And that if they somehow manage to get a deck of many things, they should be able to use it as their spellcasting focus without incurring its wrath on themselves.
Anyway, so I didn't change my little sidebar about ways you can flavor your Instruments of Fate. What I did change is the really powerful 3rd level feature where it gets most of its oomph, and that is the Mystic Inspiration. And this is like a lot of bards get at this level. It augments their bardic inspiration. And basically, when you would grant a creature inspiration, so when you take your bonus action to inspire an ally, you also roll on this Fateful Revelations table. And that is what I changed. I'm actually going to just quickly ruin my formatting to put it on another page, so it's all together. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you guys can actually read it. So my Fateful Revelations, I changed up a bit. I sucked it up. I acknowledged you guys are right. Having one that hurt you, like actively hurt you, was bad. It was not fun.
It's a little.
So that's gone. And I added a new one, which was suggested, I don't remember by whom in chat, which was no effects. Which is just normal ass inspiration. So I have now this list of 6. Cursed, which when you roll your Bardic Inspiration die, you roll twice and use the lower.
Effectively roll Bardic Inspiration.
Disadvantage Bardic Inspiration. Yep. Yeah. I think that felt it felt good for Cursed. It worked. Yeah. Overlooked, and I kind of like Cursed by Fate, Overlooked by Fate, Shielded from Fate. That was kind of the concept I was going for with these. So Overlooked, your inspiration gains no additional effects. Shielded, you gain temporary hit points equal to the amount rolled in addition to the Bardic Inspiration's normal effects. Favored, you have advantage on inspiration checks. You roll twice, and you get to pick the higher. And then Destined, which this one, you guys were saying was a little funky. Pete, I know you had some big issues with it because you thought it was too powerful. I have not changed it. I have left it as is currently.
I thought it was being undervalued a bit in power, but it didn't like break the whole class or anything for me. It was skewing on the higher side, I thought, basically.
Yeah, effectively, for those in chat who want to know what it does, when they would roll their inspiration die, instead of rolling the inspiration die, they can just re-roll the ability check, the attack roll, the saving throw. And then if their new roll would be lower than the original one, they can re-roll again until it is higher. So just a reliable kind of, it's almost like halfling luck, but instead of ones, it's whatever you originally rolled or lower. So pretty good feature, pretty powerful.
If
that specific
I
one.
could make a suggestion about shielded specifically.
Yeah, sure. That's you gain number of hit points equal to, or temporary hit points.
Yeah.
Equal to the roll.
Mechanically, I think it's fine. I think guarded would be a better word than shielded.
I think shielded works for me personally.
Well, my problem is shielded is like shielding someone from something, but like a person is guarded. I can see a fortune teller saying you should be guarded when it comes to like this person. Treat them, be wary of them.
No, but it's not. My intent isn't how you act. This is what you are. I guess you could say you are guarded, but I see like you are cursed, right? You have been overlooked. You know, that's sort of how I see it. I think it's a matter of taste. I also prefer shielded, Pete, but I get where you're getting at, Crowley.
It worked for me, but yeah, I don't know. I like if you went guarded, I wouldn't have like looked sideways at it. But shielded just feels more right to me. For the shielded from fate feels like a phrase to me.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going for.
Yeah, no, I was with you on that.
Now, Pete and Crowley, do you think I addressed the core issues here?
Yeah, the core issue being that
cursed wasn't fun.
Yeah, that curse was frustrating. Like, there would be situations where someone got a cursed dice and then they wouldn't want to
never roll.
Yeah, so I think that is just. It's now always still. It's always good to get a bardic inspiration.
Yep. Cool. I agree. I think I fixed that. 6th level, Major Arcanum. This was the probably most contentious thing around chat, which is you can now learn spells from the Warlock class. I haven't changed this. Because in the end, you guys, Pete and Crowley, were in agreement that it is probably not game-breaking.
For me, the issue, I actually did have an issue with Major Arcanum, which wasn't the balance of it. I actually don't think it's imbalanced. But I was hoping that you would have addressed like the fear of bards losing their class identity too much by just kind of moving too much into the warlock side. Did you not feel that was an issue at all?
I acknowledge that. I realize it could be. Yeah, I think it depends a lot. If you're using the variant bard spellcasting rules where they can switch out their spells every long rest, yeah, I mean that could potentially be a problem. I don't know. I didn't think it was going to be that huge of an issue, so I felt like I'd keep it.
I mean, it doesn't satisfy that thing for me that bothered me. Crowley, how do you feel about that?
To me, a bard is a bard, and a warlock is a warlock. Even picking warlock spells from just my view of a bard and what a bard is, I don't see the warlock consuming or subsuming the class identity. I guess is what it like. Just by taking the warlock spells, I don't think that would make the bard feel that much more warlocky. I think it would just make it a creepier bard.
Oh, so you're saying you agree with Jeremy's thing?
Yeah.
I think to a certain extent, there's value in classes kind of staying in their lane, so to speak.
Well, it's a kind of way, right, where the Divine Soul Sorcerer doesn't feel like a different cleric, even though it has the whole cleric spell list. And I think the reason it does is because the sorcerer has such different core mechanical abilities that make it what it is than the cleric, right? The cleric has turn undead, the sorcerer has meta magic. They play very differently. And I think the bard's in a very kind of similar place. The bard has, their bardic inspiration, they have their expertise, right? They actually engage with skills and, supporting allies to a degree. Whereas the Warlock, really, they have Eldritch Blast, and that's what they got.
Oh, don't forget about Eldritch Blast.
Oh, and their Eldritch Blasts.
Yeah, and you can't forget about Eldritch Blast.
Well, Bard has Eldritch Blast now too, if they want it. Not quite as good as a Warlock's, I suppose, because you're not going to get Agonizing Blast.
Level 1 or higher. Oh, it says Bard Cantrip or Spark. Yep. I think I would actually remove Cantrip from that.
Yeah,
but
I would remove Cantrip so they don't get Eldritch Blast.
That was an intent to not have them have Eldritch Blast.
Okay.
Sorry. The intent was for only class level spells.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It seems to me like this doesn't have the same. I agree with you on Divine Soul Sorcerer. Divine Soul Sorcerer works to me because of the way that they modify and move spells. But the way that this just you can kind of just slowly move over and take over the Warlock stuff to me here, it just ends up feeling like you're kind of almost a diet Warlock without like the full thing. Because the flavor is so heavy in that kind of eldritch doom and gloom direction with like the fate thing. Because fortune teller. Well, my phone's popping off.
That's really strange because I think my disagreement there, and I don't think we should grind on this too long.
Yeah, I don't want to spend any time here.
I think my big thought process there goes like, that's the flavor of this class, right? They are this mysterious fortune teller, right? Roll the bones, speak with the spirits, whatever you want to call it, read the tea leaves, mystic character. And I don't know. I don't think that the Warlock spells are what define a Warlock. I don't think that's the case pretty much at all. At first level, right, when they have Arms of Hadar, and that's like and everyone has like one spell slot or two spell slots, maybe it does. But at 6th level, where people have, how many spell slots does a caster have at 6th level? 10?
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot.
The Warlocks, 2? Like, the Warlock casting spells isn't what identifies it as a Warlock.
It's
other stuff.
So, I think, to me, what defines a Warlock is it's packed to a great extent.
Yeah.
Which, now that I'm thinking about it a little more, I can see that being a worry here.
Uh-huh.
Because I still don't think it's a problem, but, like, the Fates, they're definitely something you could make a pact with.
You're saying the Fates almost are a pact.
It's very it is very warlocky, and then you're moving in the spells and like sort of the words like unspeakable powers also, I would say, don't quite align with the idea of Fates to me too.
Like, I think that absolutely aligns with mysticism.
Unspeakable powers sounds dark, and mysticism sounds mystic, which
no, I think
Major Arcanum and Doom Prophecy start to move in a spooky direction where Fateful Revelations was more mysterious to me. So I don't know. There's a little disharmony there still for me, but
I don't know. I think when you talk to Fate, it's getting into Eldritch stuff to an extent, and like
sure.
But I get what you're saying.
I think there is something spooky about Fate, especially as presented.
I guess it makes me wonder, right? Because what you're getting at is this too close to the Warlock? And here's a question I got for you, Pete. Could you make a Warlock subclass that fulfills this mysticism class fantasy better than the Bard chassis? And I don't think you could. I don't think the Warlock, the way it's designed with its invocations and it's packed and it's got a pact and its otherworldly patron. I think when you put all of those disproportionate build your own adventure kind of pieces of a class together, you cannot actually put this or create something that would fulfill this fantasy.
Maybe you're right about that. It's close on that.
I hear your thoughts on the major.
Now I want to see if I can do it though.
I mean, that'd be very interesting.
I'd have to think about that a lot.
That wasn't a rhetorical question so much as a like, could you?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to think about that and really look over the
Yeah.
warlock and think about it. It's not like my instinct immediately is like, I don't know,
Everybody in the
probably
chat.
not. This is
Everybody in
very
the chat's with me though, saying the thing that defines the warlock are the invocations, not the spells. I tend to agree, especially after first level. At first level, the warlocks have a lot of unique spells. After first level, like,
Let me be clearer about what my issue is. It's a creep on the warlock's flavor, but it's also a departure from the bard's flavor.
well, yeah, it's meant to be that kind of in between.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The original thing I said, to go back to, is I think it loses its identity as a bard. Is what my main concern was. It stops feeling like a bard to me. You're not an artist anymore. You are a grim prophet, which is
It's interesting because I think Blood has a very similar idea of this doesn't feel like a bard, but for a totally different reason.
well, his was very mechanical.
Yes.
Pete, have you
But
seen?
it's also valid.
Have you seen
I agree. Yeah.
Princess and the Frog? I haven't.
Yeah, I know. Dr. Facilier was a thing.
Is he a bard or a warlock?
He's a warlock to me more than a bard. but I get
He's
what
a
you're saying.
warlock, but there's so
Okay,
much showmanship in that stuff. There's so much showmanship that the warlock class is just like, oh man, I really
You
want to
can
encompass that
make a-
showmanship
You,
aspect.
you can make a showmanship warlock.
Like, do you think he's a bard because the? Well, anyway,
I didn't say I didn't. I don't think he's a warlock.
really
He's a
think
warlock.
he could be a bard because he sings, and that's it. And it's a Disney
Um,
movie, so don't read into what I just said because I've
That's-
never
that's
actually
what I was-
seen the movie.
was getting at. Let's hear Doom
let's-
Prophecy.
yeah,
Tell me
let's
what you
move
did with
off.
that.
So I did make a few changes about Doom Prophecy. The biggest concern that Pete you had was being able to game the Doom Prophecy with abilities like not Eldritch Blast, Magic Missile. And basically what Doom Prophecy is you pick a creature, it's an action to pick a creature, and you condemn it to certain doom. And the way it works now is you trigger a countdown that starts at 12. And whenever the creature would take damage from an attack, a spell, or other magical effect from one of your allies, you roll a d4 and decrease the countdown by that number. When the countdown would reach or pass 0, the triggering damage becomes maximized. And that's basically it. You get that once per rest.
I think that's definitely. I mean, that completely takes out the gamification of it. You cannot game that.
Yeah, can't game it, which was your biggest concern. I actually really like now that the countdown starts at 12. I like the midnight kind of connotations to it. The only thing I might consider, I did have an alternate option on this that I was thinking about, which is just there's no countdown, there's no accounting for that kind of crap. It's just whenever an ally would damage the creature, roll a d12. If you roll a 12, the damage is maximized and the prophecy ends. Which is a much simpler way of doing it.
I think I like that more personally. And the reason I say that is because this just does seem a little awkward to track.
A little complicated, yeah.
Yeah,
little too much accounting.
as you're saying, yeah.
I liked the first way a lot better. I don't like this, and I don't like what you just said.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You like the original version?
I like the original.
And what was the difference in the original?
The original was the one that
2d4.
was just 2d4, and then when you deal damage.
I think
So do not worry about that gaming it issue.
I think you should be able to game it. To me, that's the point.
Well, you still can game it a little bit, but there's just a tad bit of chance now.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Okay.
I think that to me this was more about controlling fate. Like you're so good at what you do, to some extent you control fate. I think you could have eased the gaming factor by just making it so like once per turn when a creature damages kind of thing. So like you couldn't game it with magic missile, but you could still like organize it so that the person you want to get that final hit gets that hit.
Apologies, Blood. It is already 1d4. That's already what the effect is. Blood just had a question. Yeah, I think there's a lot to think about here.
And
I agree with you, Carly. I still think it doesn't quite do what I want it to do.
If you're gonna go the just roll a dice and see if it happens thing, Jeremy, a d12 sounds kind of high.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, that's the one I
like that.
hate the most.
A D4 would be
that-
the one that was reasonable, but
The thing that I would kind of like the most about this is if it were, when you damage it, the first time on a turn, right, that you the creature is damaged, roll so and so and reduce the countdown. I think might be the way to handle it and just make it a little bit more reliable. I don't know.
I don't like the rolling thing that we're doing here. I would have liked it if it was just like I said,
you just want it to be a straight ahead.
Yeah.
It still hits that as you were putting an accounting issue for me too if you go that direction, but circles back around to that.
Countdown 1, 2, 3, 4 is a lot more reasonable than
it is
than a 1d4.
Then 8 and then 3 and then 2 is definitely better.
I think this is an interesting point here where this is a very mechanically fine. There's nothing wrong mechanically with the system, but the playability is questionable.
Yep.
I would say this even gets into the flavor being questionable. Like the mechanics, I don't know if the mechanics reflect the flavor appropriately.
Well, here's another question, right, Crowley? Because here's another idea. What if the Doom Prophecy, and this is an interesting one because I think Pete's going to hate this, but I'm very interested to hear what you actually think. What if the Doom Prophecy is pick 2 creatures? The next time creature A would hit creature B, its damage is maximized. Obviously, we reflavor this stuff, give it a much different, not reflavor, but, rewrite it to make it a lot more clean and simple. But what do you think, Crowley? Does that seem what you're ultimately would want from this ability?
No.
Yeah.
And
you were right. I also don't feel that either.
I like the countdown stat. I liked
Gotcha.
how the original.
You just want to be able to game the countdown.
Yeah, I think you should be able to game it, but I think the countdown is a very sort of times ticking.
Dramatic.
Yeah, it's way more dramatic, way more. And I think if you random chance it as much as it has been, it doesn't. It's for one thing harder to keep track of, and just kind of, I don't know, doesn't feel quite right.
So what if I got rid of the D4? What if it's just whenever the Doom creature would take damage from an attack, a spell, or other effect, reduce the countdown by 1. When the countdown reaches 0, the triggering effect is maximized.
I think that'd be better. I think that would be an all right compromise. I did kind of like the random factor at the beginning, setting this is the number.
How big is the countdown? But I like the 12 a lot. I like the midnight countdown. That to me is very thematic.
You could make that a D12.
That is thematic, but I don't know if that's thematic. I don't know if that's thematic to everyone. If that 12 is going to necessarily really resonate in that way.
Oh, it's not for everyone. It's just like how the material component to detect thoughts is a copper coin. Penny for your thoughts makes some people chuckle. Yeah. Other people don't know it, and don't care to know it.
It's my personal favorite spellcasting component.
And I think having those teeny little bits of flavor that maybe if you realize this, maybe it'll make you smile, is nice. But that's personally my thought. Cleaner at 10, so it's effectively a minute. Well, I think the thing we came around to here is I didn't fix it.
It's still not quite. I mean,
or rather, I fixed one thing. I fixed Pete's problem, but created a new problem for Crowley. And ultimately, I'm not sure if I agree Pete's original thought was necessarily a problem, but that's. I tried to address it anyway.
Yeah. Sure. That's
still needs some love,
as we all do.
Mystique.
That is the College of Mystique, and with that, we are going to take a quick break. I think we'll hop off for right now. Well, before we go forward, any final thoughts on the whole process, Jeremy Crowley?
I like bards.
I like bards too.
I'm not a big fan of bards.
You don't like bards, Crowley?
I have a hard time playing bards, but for some reason I made
bards.
one.
Actually, here's the real question.
I think I'd play your bard, Jeremy, for the record.
I know you would.
This is an extremely Crowley bard.
And that's a question I was going to ask. Crowley, Pete, and myself, between the three of us and between the three bards we looked at today, would you play, we'll start color bard, in the way it was today in the show? Pete?
Oh yeah, obviously.
I'm not sold. Maybe. I think, okay, as compared to all the other bards, yes, I would play it. I like it better than really all the other parts that exist already. Crowley?
Fair enough.
I don't think I would play it. There's two bards that just flavorfully. Well, I don't know if flavorfully is the right. One of them flavorfully, and one of them mechanically does it for me more of the existing bards.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going at it from that tack, but yeah, I just don't think it was there for me yet.
Same question now. Guidance, Pete.
What? Probably. Yeah, I think so.
Crowley?
I'd play it. I'm not like I made it. I think it's sound. I don't know if it's my kind of bard, but
I would absolutely not play it, but it's just because that kind of supporty style isn't my jam.
Sure.
And Mystique, Pete. Kind of get at the Pete's just like, well, I guess I'll play everything.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm being kinder on this, but yeah, I mean, I'd try College of Mystique out. I really like Mystic Inspiration. I'd want to use Mystic Inspiration.
Crowley?
Yeah, I'd play it, especially at level 6.
You like it because mechanically that's so exciting to you.
Well, mechanically it's interesting, and like I feel like flavor-wise, this is more my jam than a lot of the other bards.
That's funny because at level 6 is the point where it starts to deviate from being a bard, which is
yes.
Whoa, to you.
To you.
I don't think it deviates from being.
But what I'm saying is, Crowley, you were just saying that you don't like bards, and then the point at which I was saying that this stops kind of being a bard in a lot of ways.
I said I don't like bards, but that's not really true. I like lore bard and I like whispers
in a
bard.
lot of ways. In its spell options.
Anyway, Jeremy, of course you would want to play this, right?
Oh, fucking course. I love that. I really want to start playing it at level 6 because that sounds like a lot of fun to me.
Yeah.
I would really like to use Warlock spells more than once.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's my problem with the Warlock class. Every time I stupidly try to play it again and then become sad. But Pete, you were trying to move us on to our break?
Yeah. So Crowley, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
No.
Thanks, Crowley.
No.
Pete, what's up next?